But as I stood there watching my daughter pretend to own the lakefront cabin I'd built with my bare hands 40 years ago, I knew one text message to my lawyer would wipe that smug smile right off her boyfriend's face. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the end to see what that single message did to my own flesh and blood. My name's Robert Chen, and I'm 63 years old. Most folks around Muskoka know me as the guy who started with nothing and built Chen Marine Services from a single fishing boat into the largest boat repair operation on Lake Rosso. But what they don't know is the price I paid along the way, and the daughter I raised who thought she could take everything from me. Let me back up. The cabin wasn't just any property. My wife Margaret and I built it ourselves in 1985, right after we got married. I was 23, working 70-hour weeks at the marina, and Margaret was teaching elementary school in Huntsville. We saved every penny for 3 years to buy that lot, and then we spent 2 full summers constructing that cabin with our own hands. I did the framing and roofing. Margaret handled the interior work. Every board, every nail, every stone in that fireplace represented our sweat and dreams. Margaret loved that place more than anywhere on earth. We'd go there every weekend, even in winter. She'd paint landscapes from the deck while I'd work on boat engines in the workshop I'd built out back. When our daughter Vanessa was born in 1990, that cabin became our family sanctuary. I have 1,000 memories of teaching Vanessa to fish off that dock, of Margaret making her famous blueberry pancakes in that kitchen, of the 3 of us watching northern lights dance across the lake on summer nights. Then, in 2019, everything changed. Margaret started forgetting things. Little things at first, where she'd put her keys, what day it was. Within 6 months, it was clear something was seriously wrong. Early onset Alzheimer's. The doctors said it would progress quickly at her age, 55. They were right. By 2021, she didn't recognize the cabin anymore. By 2022, she didn't recognize me. She passed away last year, at 58, and I buried her in the cemetery overlooking the lake she loved. After Margaret died, I couldn't bring myself to go back to the cabin. Too many memories, too much pain. I threw myself into work, expanding the marina, taking on more contracts than I needed. Anything to keep busy, anything to avoid that empty cabin. Vanessa, my 34-year-old daughter, knew all this. She'd always been my little girl, even when she made questionable choices. Dropping out of university to find herself. Moving to Toronto to be with a series of boyfriends who never worked out. Coming back to Muskoka broke, asking me to help with rent, with car payments, with credit card debt. I always said yes. She was my only child, and after losing Margaret, she was all I had left. But things got worse when she met Tyler Hutchinson 2 years ago. Tyler was a 36-year-old who called himself a digital entrepreneur, which as far as I could tell meant he sold overpriced online courses about cryptocurrency. He drove a leased BMW, wore designer clothes, and had that slick confidence of someone who'd never actually built anything real with his own hands. I didn't like him from the start, but Vanessa was smitten. 6 months ago, Vanessa called me crying. She and Tyler needed money. Tyler's business venture had fallen through, and they were facing eviction from their Toronto condo. Could I help? Just $20,000 to get back on their feet. I should have said no. God knows I should have. But she was my daughter, and she sounded desperate. I transferred the money that same day. She promised to pay me back. Tyler had a new opportunity, she said. Something big. They'd repay me within 3 months, plus interest. I didn't even want the interest. I just wanted my daughter to be okay. 3 months came and went. No payment, and Vanessa stopped returning my calls as frequently. When we did talk, there was always an excuse. The opportunity fell through. The investors backed out. Tyler's partner ran off with the funds. Always something. I tried not to push. I knew she was embarrassed. I figured she'd make it right eventually. Besides, I had the marina. I could afford the loss, even if it stung. Then last month, I got a call from Don Watson, a neighbor who has a cottage 3 properties down from my cabin. "Hey, Robert," he said, sounding uncomfortable. "I don't want to pry, but is Vanessa living at your place now? I've seen her car there every weekend for the past 2 months, and last weekend there were 4 or 5 other vehicles. Looked like quite the party." I felt my stomach drop. Living there? No, Don. The cabin's been empty since Margaret passed. Oh, long pause. Well, maybe you should come check it out. There was some loud music last Saturday night. I almost called you then, but I figured you knew about it. I thanked Dawn and hung up. Then I just sat there in my office at the marina, staring at the photo of Margaret on my desk. Our daughter was using the cabin? Without asking? Without even telling me? I tried calling Vanessa. Straight to voicemail. I sent a text asking if she'd been to the cabin. No response. Something was very wrong. The cabin was a 90-minute drive from my house in Bracebridge. I decided to go up that Saturday, unannounced. Maybe Dawn was mistaken. Maybe Vanessa had asked, and I'd forgotten in my grief. But deep down, I knew better. It was early October, peak fall colors, the maple trees blazing red and gold against the blue sky. The drive up Highway 118 should have been beautiful, but I couldn't focus on anything except what I might find. I hadn't been back since Margaret's funeral. 16 months of avoiding the place where we'd been happiest. As I turned onto the private road leading to the cabin, I noticed fresh tire tracks in the dirt, multiple vehicles. My heart started pounding. Then I rounded the final bend and saw it. The cabin looked the same from the outside, cedar siding weathered to silver, the green metal roof, the stone chimney Margaret and I had built together. But there were 3 cars parked in the clearing. Vanessa's Honda, Tyler's BMW, and a white Audi I didn't recognize. Music was playing inside, loud enough that I could hear it with my truck windows closed. I parked and sat there for a moment, trying to calm down. Then I noticed something that made my blood boil. On the deck, someone had set up an expensive-looking camera on a tripod, pointed at the lake. Professional lighting equipment was scattered around. This wasn't just Vanessa crashing at the cabin. This was something else entirely. I got out and walked to the front door. It was unlocked. Of course it was. I'd never needed to lock it out here. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The living room was chaos. Someone had rearranged all the furniture, pushing Margaret's handmade chairs and the couch we'd bought on our 10th anniversary against the walls to create an open space in front of the fireplace. Ring lights and cameras on tripods were everywhere. Fast food containers and energy drink cans covered every surface. The beautiful stone fireplace, the one Margaret and I had built stone by stone, had been decorated with artificial plants and neon signs that said THR and Hustle. And there, standing in the middle of my living room with a microphone in his hand, was Tyler. He was filming himself talking to the camera, gesturing dramatically. Behind him, I could see 3 young people I didn't recognize, all in their 20s, all looking at Tyler like he was some kind of guru. Tyler was mid-sentence when he noticed me. And that's why location independence is the key to... He stopped, his eyes going wide. But then, incredibly, his expression shifted to annoyance. Not embarrassment, not guilt, annoyance. "Cut," he said sharply, and one of the young people stopped the camera. Tyler looked at me like I was an intruder. "Can I help you?" I couldn't speak for a moment. I just stared at him, then at the room, then back at him. "What's going on here?" I finally managed. "We're filming content," Tyler said, as if this explained everything. "We're in the middle of a session, so if you could come back later." "Come back later?" The words came out louder than I intended. "This is my cabin. What are you doing here?" That's when Vanessa appeared from the kitchen, carrying a tray of coffee cups. When she saw me, her face went pale. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "What am I doing here?" "Vanessa, what's going on? Why are you in my cabin without asking me?" Tyler stepped between us, and I saw something in his eyes I didn't like. He held up one hand in a placating gesture. "Okay, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Vanessa, didn't you tell your father about our arrangement?" "What arrangement?" I looked at my daughter. "Vanessa?" She set down the tray, her hands shaking. "Dad, I can explain. Tyler and we needed a location for his coaching business, and I thought, you thought you could just move into my cabin without asking?" "It's not like you're using it," Tyler interjected, his voice taking on an edge. "Vanessa said you haven't been here in over a year. The place was just sitting empty." I turned to face him fully. "Who are you to tell me how I use my own property?" One of the young people, a girl maybe 25 with pink hair, spoke up nervously. "Wait, Vanessa, I thought you said this was your family's cabin. Like, that you inherited it." Vanessa's face flushed red. "I never said I inherited it. I said it was my family's cabin, which it is." "You told me your parents gave it to you," Tyler said, his voice calm but firm. "You said they wanted you to have it because they were downsizing." "Tyler, I never. Actually, you did. Tyler pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned it toward me. I have the text right here. April 15th. Good news, babe. Parents are giving me the lake house. We can finally launch the coaching retreats. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I looked at Vanessa. You told him I gave you this cabin? Tears were forming in her eyes. Dad, it wasn't like that. I just meant eventually, you know? Like, someday it would be mine anyway. So, someday? My voice cracked. Your mother's been gone 16 months, and you're already counting your inheritance? Robert, I think you're overreacting. Tyler's voice had shifted to that condescending tone people use when they're trying to sound reasonable. Vanessa has every right to use family property. You weren't using it. We needed a location, and frankly, we've been improving the place. Improving it? I looked around at the chaos, the equipment, the garbage. You've turned it into a film studio. A content creation space, Tyler corrected. Do you have any idea how much value we've added? Professional lighting, acoustic treatment. We've even upgraded the internet. This cabin is worth more now than when we got here. Something snapped inside me. Get out. Tyler blinked. Excuse me? I said get out. All of you, right now. Dad, please. Vanessa started. I'm not talking to you yet. I kept my eyes on Tyler. You and your students, or clients, or whatever they are. Pack up your equipment and leave my property. Tyler crossed his arms. Actually, Robert, I don't think I will. Vanessa and I have been living here for 3 months. We've been paying for utilities, maintenance, improvements. Under Ontario property law, we have tenant rights. I almost laughed. Tenant rights? You've been squatting in my cabin, and you think you have tenant rights? We have receipts for all the improvements, Tyler continued, pulling out his phone again. Internet installation, electrical work, the deck refinishing. We've invested over $8,000 into this property, so legally, you can't just throw us out without proper notice. One of the young people, a skinny kid with a man bun, spoke up timidly. Tyler, I thought you said Vanessa owned this place? She does, Tyler said firmly. Family property, same thing. Actually, the pink-haired girl said, her voice uncertain, my roommate went through this with her parents' cottage. Family property doesn't mean, Emily, not now, Tyler cut her off. He turned back to me. Look, Robert, I understand you're upset, but Vanessa is your daughter. This cabin will be hers eventually anyway. We're just getting a head start on making it productive. You should be proud that she's finally building something. Building something? I could hear my voice rising again. You're running some kind of online scam out of the cabin my wife and I built with our bare hands. The cabin where we raised our daughter. My voice broke. I couldn't finish. Vanessa was crying now. Dad, I'm sorry. I should have asked. I know I should have. But you wouldn't come here anyway. And Tyler needed a space for the coaching program. And you thought you could lie to everyone, I said quietly. You told Tyler I gave you this place. What did you tell these kids? I gestured to the 3 young people, who all looked deeply uncomfortable. Did you tell them you owned it? Did you charge them to come here? Vanessa didn't answer, but the pink-haired girl did. We each paid $3,000 for the 3-day intensive coaching retreat. Tyler said the cabin rental was included in the price. I closed my eyes. My daughter hadn't just lied. She'd helped her boyfriend run a scam, charging people thousands of dollars to stay in a cabin she didn't own. Okay, everyone needs to calm down. Tyler's voice had shifted again, now using that fake friendly tone salespeople use. Robert, you're clearly emotional right now, which is understandable. Why don't you head home, and Vanessa and I will come by tomorrow to discuss this properly. We can work something out that benefits everyone. No, I pulled out my phone. I'm calling the police. Dad, no. Vanessa grabbed my arm. Please, don't. We'll leave right now. Just don't call the police. You should have thought of that before you broke into my cabin. Tyler's calm mask finally cracked. Broke in? Vanessa has a key. Her name is on the insurance documents. You can't prove she didn't have permission. Actually, I can. I pulled up the insurance documents on my phone. Yes, Vanessa was listed as an emergency contact, but the policy clearly stated the property owner as Robert Chen, sole owner. I showed him the screen. See that? Sole owner. Not Vanessa. Me. The kid with the man bun started packing up his camera equipment. Tyler, Man, I don't want any trouble. I'm just gonna head out. Nobody's going anywhere, Tyler said sharply. Then, to me, you want to call the cops? Fine, call them. They'll see we've been paying utilities, making improvements, acting as legitimate tenants. They'll tell you that you need to go through the proper eviction process, which in Ontario takes months. So go ahead, make the call. I hesitated. Not because I believed him, but because I could see Vanessa's face. My daughter, the little girl I'd taught to fish, who'd helped Margaret paint the cabin shutters when she was 12, who'd scattered her mother's ashes from the end of that dock. Now standing there, terrified, having lied and stolen and helped scam innocent people. But I also saw Tyler's smug expression, the way he was so confident, so sure he could manipulate the situation, the way he was using my daughter. I made the call. Muskoka, Ontario Provincial Police. How can I help you? Yes. I'd like to report a trespassing at my property on Lake Rosso. Tyler's confidence wavered slightly, but he stood his ground. Vanessa sank onto the couch, her face in her hands. The three young people quickly gathered their belongings. Tyler, we're leaving, Emily said. This is not what we signed up for. Fine. Go, Tyler snapped. Run away instead of seeing a minor conflict through. This is exactly why you'll never succeed in business. But they left anyway, practically running to their car. I heard the Audi start up and speed away down the dirt road. The police said they'd send an officer, but it would be about 30 minutes. We waited in terrible silence. Tyler stood with his arms crossed, occasionally muttering about property rights and legitimate use. Vanessa stayed on the couch, crying softly. I stood by the door, trying to process what was happening. Finally, I couldn't take the silence anymore. Vanessa, do these people know about the $20,000 I lent you? She looked up, confused. What? The money you needed 6 months ago, for Tyler's business venture. Did you tell these people about that? Tyler's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? Your girlfriend borrowed $20,000 from me in April, I said, keeping my voice level. She said it was an emergency, that you two were being evicted and needed help. Ring any bells? I watched Tyler's face carefully. Genuine surprise crossed his features. Vanessa, you told me your friend Laura lent us that money. Now it was my turn to be surprised. I looked at my daughter. You told him it was from a friend? Vanessa's face crumpled. I didn't want Tyler to think I was still depending on you for money. He's always saying I need to be financially independent from my parents. So you lied to both of us, I said. Told him the money came from a friend, promised to pay me back, then used my cabin without permission to run his coaching scam. It's not a scam, Tyler's voice rose. I provide real value to my clients. I teach them financial independence, entrepreneurial mindsets. You charged 3 kids $3,000 each to stay in a cabin you don't own, I interrupted. What would you call that? I call it business, Tyler shot back. Something you wouldn't understand. Working a blue-collar job your whole life. That hit a nerve. Blue-collar? I own the largest marine service operation on this lake. I employ 23 people. I built my business from nothing, which is more than you've ever done. You fix boats, Tyler said dismissively. I change lives. You're a con artist. Before Tyler could respond, we heard a vehicle coming up the road. The police had arrived. Constable Jennifer Morrison and Constable David Park entered the cabin, and I explained the situation. I showed them the property deed, the insurance documents, everything proving I was the sole owner. Vanessa confirmed she'd never asked my permission to use the cabin. Tyler tried to argue about improvements and tenant rights, but Constable Morrison shut that down quickly. Sir, if you don't have a lease agreement signed by the property owner, you don't have tenant rights. And the property owner is asking you to leave. If you refuse, we'll have to remove you. Tyler's face went red, but he knew he was beaten. Fine, we'll go, but I'll be filing a claim for the improvements we made. $8,000, Robert. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Please do file that claim, Constable Park said dryly. Make sure to include the part where you charged people money to stay in a property you don't own. I'm sure that'll go over well. Tyler grabbed his keys and stormed out. Vanessa stood up slowly, not looking at me. I'll get my things. Vanessa, I said. She stopped. The $20,000. I need it back. She turned, tears streaming down her face. Dad, I don't have it. Tyler invested it in the coaching program. Equipment, advertising, the business incorporation, it's gone. Then he needs to pay me back. He doesn't have it either. Dad, please. I'm sorry. I'll pay you back somehow. I'll get a job. You'll what? You've never held a job for more than 6 months. You dropped out of university. You've lied to me, to Tyler, to those kids you scammed. What exactly are you going to do? She had no answer. She just grabbed a bag from the bedroom and walked out. Tyler was already in his BMW, engine running. Vanessa got in the passenger seat, and they drove away without another word. The constables stayed while I did a walkthrough of the property. The damage was worse than I'd initially seen. They drilled holes in the walls for the lighting equipment. Someone had spilled an energy drink on Margaret's handmade quilt, which she'd sewn over 2 winters. The dock had several boards missing, probably removed for some kind of photo shoot. "Do you want to press charges?" Constable Morrison asked. I thought about it. Pressing charges would mean court, testimony, dragging Vanessa's name through the legal system. It would mean permanently destroying what little relationship we had left. "No," I said finally. "I just want them gone." After the police left, I sat on the deck as the sun set over the lake. This was where Margaret and I used to sit every evening, watching the light change on the water. This was where we'd planned our future, dreamed about retirement, talked about watching grandchildren play on this dock someday. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer, Patricia Blackwell. I'd known Patricia for 20 years. She'd handled all my business contracts. I explained what had happened. "Robert, I'm so sorry," she said. "What do you want to do? Can I put the cabin in a trust or something, so Vanessa can never claim it?" "You can do better than that. You can sell it, if that's what you want." I looked out at the lake, at the trees Margaret had loved, at the dock where I'd taught Vanessa to fish. "I don't know what I want anymore." "Take some time," Patricia advised. "But in the meantime, let me send a formal letter to Vanessa demanding repayment of the $20,000, plus compensation for damages. We'll give her 90 days to respond. If she doesn't, we'll file a civil suit." "She won't respond," I said. "She doesn't have the money. Then the judgment will follow her. It'll affect her credit, her ability to get loans, everything. Maybe that's the wake-up call she needs." After I hung up, I sat there until it was fully dark. Then I went inside and started cleaning. I packed up all of Tyler's equipment and left it in boxes by the driveway. I took down the neon signs and stored them in the shed. I tried to clean the stain from Margaret's quilt, but it wouldn't come out. I spent the night in the cabin, the first time since Margaret's funeral. It felt both familiar and completely foreign. Every corner held memories, but they all hurt now. Over the next few weeks, Patricia sent the demand letter. Vanessa didn't respond. Tyler sent a ridiculous email threatening to sue me for unlawful eviction and theft of business equipment, but Patricia responded with a detailed letter explaining exactly how many laws he'd broken, and we never heard from him again. Vanessa tried calling me once, 2 weeks later. I let it go to voicemail. "Dad, I'm so sorry," her voice said. "Tyler and I broke up. He told me that the money you lent us was actually what he used for his personal expenses, not the business like he told me. I didn't know. I really didn't know. I'm sorry about everything. I'm trying to get a job so I can start paying you back. Please call me." I deleted the message. 2 months after that, I got a call from Emily, the pink-haired girl who'd been at the cabin. "Mr. Chen, I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I got your number from the property deed record. I just wanted you to know that 5 of us who took Tyler's program are filing a complaint with the Ministry of Consumer Services. He never registered as a business trainer. He has no credentials, and he misrepresented his success. We thought you should know." "Thank you, Emily," I said, "and I'm sorry you lost your money." "We're sorry about what happened with your cabin," she replied. For what it's worth, Vanessa seemed really conflicted about the whole thing. I think Tyler manipulated her pretty badly. Maybe he had. Maybe Vanessa was a victim too, in some ways. But she'd still made her choices. She'd lied to me, stolen from me, helped scam those kids, all while I was still grieving her mother. Last month, I put the cabin up for sale. I couldn't keep it anymore. Every memory was tainted now. A developer made an offer, a good one. They want to tear it down and build something modern. I accepted. Vanessa called when she heard about the sale. Somehow word had gotten around Muskoka, the way it does in small communities. "Dad, please don't sell the cabin. That's Mom's place." That's our family history. You should have thought about that before you used it to run a scam, I said. I know I made mistakes. I know I hurt you. But please, can we talk about this? I've been in therapy. I'm working on myself. I got a job at a call center. I'm trying to change. I'm glad you're getting help, Vanessa. I really am. But the cabin's sold. What about the money from the sale? I'm still your daughter. Don't I get anything? That question hurt more than everything else combined. You already got $20,000 from me. You stole the cabin for 3 months. You damaged property that your mother and I built with our own hands. And now you want more? I didn't mean it like that. I just thought, what? That you could lie and steal and still get your inheritance? That's not how this works. So you're cutting me off completely? Just like that? I thought about how to answer. Vanessa, I loved you more than anything. I gave you everything. Every time you needed help, I was there. And you repaid that by lying to me, using me, and desecrating the one place that meant everything to your mother and me. I can't trust you anymore. Maybe someday that'll change. But right now, I need you to understand that actions have consequences. She was quiet for a long moment. I understand, she finally said. I'm sorry, Dad, for everything. She hung up. The cabin sale closed last week. The developer is planning to break ground in the spring. With the money, I'm setting up a scholarship fund in Margaret's name for local kids who want to go into the trades. She always believed in the value of working with your hands, of building something real. I still think about Vanessa sometimes. Wonder if she's really changing, or if she's just saying what she thinks I want to hear. Wonder if I'm being too harsh, or if I'm finally doing what I should have done years ago, letting her face the consequences of her choices. The truth is, I enabled her for too long. Every time I bailed her out, I taught her that she didn't need to be responsible. Every time I forgave her without requiring real change, I taught her that her actions didn't matter. I thought I was being a good father, being loving and supportive, but really, I was crippling her. My father used to say something when I was growing up. He was a mechanic, worked on cars his whole life. He'd say, Robert, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone feel the weight they're carrying. That's how they learn to get stronger. I didn't understand what he meant until now. I spent 34 years trying to lift every weight off Vanessa's shoulders, and I raised a daughter who never learned to carry anything on her own. The most loving thing I ever did for my daughter was the hardest thing I've ever done. I stopped being her safety net. I let her fall. And maybe, just maybe, she'll learn to catch herself. I don't know if Vanessa and I will ever have a real relationship again. Maybe in time, if she truly changes. But for now, I'm done enabling. I'm done lying to myself that helping her is the same as loving her. Real love sometimes means stepping back. It means letting people face their consequences, even when it breaks your heart. It means understanding that you can't save someone who doesn't want to save themselves. Margaret would have understood. She always saw things more clearly than I did. I think she knew, even before she got sick, that we'd been too soft on Vanessa, that our little girl had grown into a woman who expected the world to be given to her. I hope Vanessa figures it out. I hope she finds her way, but I can't be the one to carry her anymore. She's got to walk on her own now, even if she stumbles. Especially if she stumbles. That's the lesson I learned too late, but I'm learning it now. And maybe that's the most important thing I can leave behind. Not a cabin or an inheritance, but the understanding that real strength comes from standing on your own 2 feet, even when the people who love you refuse to hold you up anymore.